It's Loose Time Zero. If you watched my last video, you'll remember one of the 4 key terms of strategy, tempo. It's also the most important term of the 4. If you haven't seen it, don't worry, I won't judge, go watch it now. You'll need it to understand the context. Okay, good. Tempo is all about what happens now. It's the current state of the battlefield, the measure of how things are right now. Getting value off your spells sooner rather than later, having an immediate impact on the battlefield, rather than holding out for a huge payout a few turns down the line. Let's compare Loose Time's Arrow to a spell many people love, Haste. Both spells cost 2 actions. Haste gives an ally or yourself up to 10 actions, minus the 2 spent to cast it, so that's a net gain of 8 actions. Loose Time's Arrow gives up to 6 people, including yourself, 1 action. That's 6 actions with a net gain of 4 actions. In a party of 4, it's only a net gain of 2 actions. From a pure total value standpoint, Haste gives twice or even 3 times the amount of actions as Loose Time's Arrow. However, we need to consider how long a combat goes. How often do your combats reach round 10? Round 9? Round 6? And how often do the later rounds matter? Sometimes, the fight is already effectively won on the first or second turn. If your rogue nails a nasty crit debilitation, or your enemies all fail against slow, the rest of the combat is basically cleanup. Sure, having a 4th action to clean up with is nice, but does it really matter? If you cast Haste on yourself turn 1, you'd be down 2 actions, then down 1 action on turn 2, then tempo neutral on turn 3. This is, of course, assuming you're doing approximately full value turns. Only on turn 4 and onwards would you be gaining positive tempo from Haste. With most combats lasting 5 rounds or less, and the first few turns being the most important, that's not good. However, what about casting Haste on an ally? This is where buffing shines. If you cast Haste on an ally that hasn't acted yet this round, you're tempo neutral by their turn on round 2. You can reach the value of Haste a lot earlier than if you casted it on yourself, because your allies' turns are much closer to the present than your own turn. Let's look at Loose Time's Arrow's tempo. 2 actions spent by the caster, and each of your allies get 1 action immediately on their turns. It's pretty much guaranteed payoff, especially on round 1, where you almost always want to move to find your best possible positioning. If you were to think of tempo as a chart that swings from positive to negative depending on the combat state, here's what Haste's tempo looks like. It starts small, then gradually increases as you get more value from its actions. Meanwhile, here's what Loose Time's Arrow's graph looks like. Remember, Haste also gives you less tempo per action, because actions now are almost always worth more than actions later. This isn't to say that Haste is a bad spell, far from it. Haste can enable a lot of action-starved classes like Thaumaturge, Magus, or most casters to fire off turn after turn of powerful abilities. Those turns can often be a huge difference, especially in extreme fights, where the combat is more likely to take longer. We also have to look at the adventuring day. Loose Time's Arrow is 2nd rank, Haste is 3rd. If you're low level, you may want to save your 3rd rank slots for damage or debuffs, like Slow or Fireball. These tend to be more consistent than popping Haste on a Magus who's having a string of bad luck. This is why it's so important to consider what your allies will be doing with that extra action. Loose Time's Arrow allows for your whole team to run in, nail the enemy with powerful 2-action activities like Knockdown. It allows your casters to get off a spell, a 3rd action, and a stride for positioning. Haste lets 1 person do that, but it may be more powerful for your whole team to do it all at once rather than 1 person over several turns. As you level up, the first turn or 2 remain important, but due to the nature of HP, tankiness, saves, and healing and scaling, the later turns of a fight begin to matter more and more. At level 11, Loose Time's Arrow may not even see much use in your repertoire. Furthermore, at level 13, or when you get rank 7 spells, Haste does pretty much exactly what Loose Time's Arrow does, except for the whole combat rather than 1 turn. That's really good, and usually results in teams swapping out Loose Time's Arrow for another spell that can't be replicated with higher rank spells. Loose Time's Arrow isn't the end-all be-all of 2nd rank spells. Far from it. So why do I say it's the best 2nd rank spell? It's because it's the best teaching tool. Loose Time Zero teaches the most important idea in Pathfinder 2nd Edition, that it's your in-combat tactics that matter. There is no greater tool than the ability to think ahead and consider the importance of your actions. Loose Time Zero can be a great showcase at early levels as to the importance of a strong first turn. It helps you see the power of a class like Magus, and it helps you understand the strengths of Monk. It helps show the power of positioning and might convince your party to let enemies waste actions moving towards the players. Is it better than, say, Acid Grip or Invisibility, Laughing Fit, Tailwind? That's up for you to decide. Remember, you're the tactician. Consider your foes, your allies, and pick the right tools for the job. Plan ahead. Always, always think about your next turn. Tune in next time for more about value and delaying your turn. Class dismissed. Thanks for watching.